Hello students. Today we are going to learn about Philip Larkin, life and works. Philip Larkin was born in Coventry, Warwickshire on 9th August 1922. From his own account in I remember, he had an unremarkable childhood, finishing his school days at King's Henry VIII Grammar School in Coventry. Even as a child, he wrote prose 1,000 words at night after homework, and poetry which he bound up in little books. His first poem, Ultimatum, appeared in The Listener when he was 18. In 1940, he proceeded to Oxford University, St. John's College, Oxford, from where he graduated in 1943. His Oxford days were formative days because he met and was influenced by other writers like John Wayne, Kingsley Amis, John Heath Stubbs, and Sidney Keys. Poet Vernon Watkins directed Larkin's early poetic style towards that of Yeats, but this was a temporary phase only, as he soon forsook Yeats for the more endurable influence of Hardy. After getting his degree from Oxford University, Larkin found himself at a loss about what career to adopt. World War II was at this time at its height, and according to the law of the land, he was required to enlist in the army. But having failed in the medical examination, he had to look for a job. He submitted applications for a number of jobs almost at random, and late in 1943 he was appointed the librarian at a public library in Wellington in Shropshire, where he worked for the next 3 years. Since 1943, Larkin had been a librarian at various centers, the latest of which has been the University Library at Hull. Jazz music is one of his constant interests. From 1961 onwards, he had been featured writer on jazz for the London Daily Telegraph. He gave talks on the radio about gramophone records as also on his own poetry. In 1965, he won Arts Council Triennial Award for Poetry as also the Queen's Gold Medal for Poetry in 1974. The University of Belfast, Leicester, St Andrews, Sussex and Warwick have conferred on him honorary degrees of Doctorate of Letters. In 1970-71, he was a visiting fellow of All Souls College, Oxford. Larkin's first poems appeared in Poetry from Oxford in Wartime, edited by William Bell and published in 1944. His first individual book of poems was published in 1945. A revised edition of this, The North Ship, came out in 1946. Then again, two novels, Jill in 1946 and A Girl in Winter in 1947. Jill appeared in a revised edition in 1964. His second volume of poems, The Less Deceived, the first to show him at his best, came out in 1955. Some of his poems appeared in Robert Conquest anthology New Lines in 1956. Another collection, The Whitsun Weddings, came out in 1964. His essays, All What Jazz, A Record Diary, 1961 to 68, were published in 1970. Larkin's anthologies, The Oxford Book of 20th Century Verse, 1973, is generally regarded as a disastrous propaganda, and while it certainly demonstrates his critical shortcomings, it also contains good poems that are more of fashion consciousness. It took Larkin another 10 years to bring out his next collection of poems entitled High Windows 1974, so that all there is to be searched for: four collections of poems, two novels, and a book of essays about jazz music. Larkin had a major breakdown in his health in the middle years of his life and had to undergo extensive medical tests to find out what was wrong with him. He remained in hospital for a long time but subsequently recovered almost completely from whatever malady he was suffering. Then in year 1984 he developed a serious ailment, most probably cancer, and died on the 2nd December 1985.